Yeah, absolutely. I feel very passionate that one of the big keys to solving the affordability crisis is the investors that are developing small properties. If you look at what jurisdictions are doing, there's not a ton of work right now to make it easier on the big developers, right? But there's a ton of legislative work going on right now to help with middle housing codes. The middle housing codes in the Pacific Northwest, frankly, have gotten very very aggressive. Where they're dropping lot coverage limits, and they're dropping tons of setbacks and other regulations specifically catering to that middle housing. So yeah, I think that the small investor, or the investors that are making moves on infill, is going to be where it's at. The jurisdictions are certainly the ones that are trying to make that easier right now.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Today's guest, Don Healy, is a land development consultant for single-family developers and small multifamily developers, servicing investors nationwide. Don, welcome to the show.
Dylan, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
It's great to have you on here. Great to meet you, Don. And I always like to start off at the top of the show by asking guests how they got started in real estate.
Sure. Yeah, I actually it was a funny story. Went to college, got a degree in mechanical engineering, and ran into the crossroads of life at a career fair where I could go left to construction and right to engineering, and I took the left. Came out of college and went directly into home building, high volume, fast paced production home building about 80 houses a year. 2008 hit, and wasn't that great of a spot to be for somebody fresh out of college in home building. So fell back on my engineering degree, and ended up in various roles managing engineering teams, high hazard nuclear waste. Ended up managing a nitric acid chemical plant, in charge of all their risk management. Came to a spot in that journey where I decided that that wasn't the stress that I wanted on me, and went back to home building, and landed in on your land home building, where we were servicing people building houses on their own lots. This included in investors, small developers, and realized pretty quickly that the skills that I had gained in risk management applied really well to helping people understand the risks with their land. And I found that getting early evaluation of property and helping people understand those risks as early as possible in the process made on the builder side made the operational processes as well as the customer experience night and day different. And so when I decided to leave home building and start my own thing about a year ago, I really dove into where I could help people the most, and that's with understanding land,
Yeah.
helping them understand the risks. Coming in with the mindset that every property is hiding something, and helping people understand what those things are as early as possible, so that they can make good investment decisions, as they're preparing to, build, develop, infill, anything that they're doing with land. It's, you absolutely have to have that early due diligence to understand what it is.
Yeah.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Yeah. And it's interesting because land, and I was mentioning to you before hopping on here, is now being looked at by more people than maybe in years past, where people might have been focused more on fixing and flipping. It's just harder to do that when there's so much ground up construction. But before we get into that, I do want to ask you, you mentioned engineering degree and then going into construction and then having to fall back on the engineering during 2008. So you've had to make some pivots. For folks who are listening who may be engineering students or engineering grads, do you have any advice for folks who may be trying to decide, hey, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I, find my career? What advice would you give engineers out there?
Gosh, in my eyes, that degree, that's a tool in your bag, and you never know where that career is going to lead when you walk out of those doors. And I realized pretty quickly when I walked out of that engineering school, that what I was taught in engineering is not necessarily anything that you're going to use in school, or excuse me, in your career. So, in school, you're gathering tools that you're going to be able to deploy wherever you end up. And looking back at my career, I've used the tenets of solving hard problems, understanding details, looking at things very analytically. I've used those tools from engineering through every career path that I've done. Even early on in residential construction, I could have a great conversation with an inspector because I understood the codes. I understood the tenets of what was behind, the codes, to have an educated conversation, which helped me even early on in my career.
Speaking about codes and having difficult or educated conversations, when we talk about land specifically, I mentioned there's people pivoting into this space out of fix and flip. What are some of the basic mistakes that you see people making that could be costing them time and lots of money?
Gosh, the top three things that I see that cost people time and money, and slope is actually number one. That may be a Pacific Northwest thing. A lot of people don't understand the costs of slope when they're going to build on that. Number two is zoning. They purchase a piece of property that they're planning to build something on, and it's not entirely zoned appropriately. And when I say that, in zoning code, there's uses that are permitted or outright uses, and then there's conditional uses. And you may go talk to the county and run what you want to do by them, and they're like, "Yeah, you could build a house on that." But what they may not tell you is that there's a conditional use planning process that's going to take 8 months and $20,000 and a consultant to get you through before you can even get to building permits. So we see that. And then the last thing that I see is utilities. Utilities on the lot is a lot different than utilities in the area, or utilities available. We see that a lot in real estate listings. Recently did a review for a guy that was working on developing a piece of property in Washington, and he was in the due diligence. Fortunately, he hadn't contracted on it yet, and he sent me the listing. The listing said that utilities were available, and once I dug in, utilities were available-ish. The sewer main was about 400 feet away, and the city was to develop that lot was forcing a mainline extension, and that mainline extension was going to be about $130,000 add to be able to do what he wanted on that property. So we see that a ton. Mainline extensions, laterals to tap into the main. We see a lot in the infill where power is available, but the transformers are not sized appropriately. So
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
the developer that's building that infill building is having to pay for the new transformer and line extensions and that sort of stuff. So those are the main hits that I see when people go to build, especially in infill.
Now, I'm imagining your background as a builder, managing these sites is critical here. When most people are trying to do this on their own, do their own legwork, how are they missing these things? I mean, to me, as someone outside looking in, it seems like, yeah, that's an important thing, like water, needed to come to the edge of your property. How are people missing that?
Honestly, Dylan, I've worked with probably 1,000 customers in my building career and doing due diligence, and walked thousands of properties. And I can't fault the land buyer because there's so many things that the average person is not going to know unless they've been burned by it before. And yes, it seems logical, but they'll go to their realtor and the realtor's like, yeah, there's utilities available, but that's not the next layer, next layer of information that the tying a lateral in, or the power, the mainline extensions, like that's not stuff that the average Joe is going to know. And I see a lot of people get caught into the catch 22. The only person they know to go talk to is a builder, but then they get sucked into feeling the obligation to work with that builder, right? The builder will help them with due diligence, potentially for free, but then you have some obligation to use them. So I see a lot of people who are buying properties. They know there's risks that they don't know. They don't know who to ask, so they choose to just move forward, hoping that they've got enough of the risk mitigated to be able to make the right decision and make some money on the backside of it.
Now, when we're talking about, trusting the realtor, trusting the city, you would like to be able to do that. But then are there ways that people without having a background in building and construction can peel back that first layer of the onion and, trust but verify? How would someone go about, maybe without giving away all the gold, all the secret sauce, how would someone go about verifying?
Dylan, I'll give it all away. I don't care. I want people at the end of the day to make good decisions on land. And there's the GISs, right? Like that's always the place to start, is the GIS maps and the county maps. And just going through every single detail, click every layer on that GIS. And if something pops up on that you don't understand, if it's a landscape management zone or something goofy like that, then you have to go to the code. AI is an incredible tool that makes this sort of research way easier than it's ever been, because now you can take the zoning code from a jurisdiction, you can upload it into Chat GPT, and you can say, hey, I found this landscape management overlay on my property. What does it mean? And ChatGPT does an okay enough job of analyzing that code to be able to give you some semblance of an idea of what you're dealing with, or enough of information to go ask educated questions of the city. There's a ton of data that's out there. The NRCS soils reports, we use those on every single report, or on every single due diligence that we do. And you can take and pull a NRCS soils report for a property, and you can plug that right into Chat GPT. It'll analyze that, and you can ask it, hey, is this suitable for building a single family home on? And it'll kick back and it'll say, hey, there's this and this soil that has expansive properties, or whatever. But these tools give you clues. And the number one advice that I can give is when you run across a clue, like let's say something in a code says, if you do this then that, you need to pull that next thread, right? You can't just go, oh, hey, it's zoned residential, but, and ignore the but. You've got to dig through that next layer. But with that said, AI is incredible right now for helping analyze those zoning codes, so you don't have to spend.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Hours looking at the black and white, you can ask specific questions and get key answers. And another little tip that I use when we use AI is you can prompt it to provide a citation to its response. So you ask it to provide a citation, it gives a citation, then you can go into the code yourself and verify the information that it's giving you is correct.
Trust but verify. When we talk about some of the ways where builders are acquiring these properties, you're talking about infill lots, so an undeveloped section of a subdivision, fire damage. But then there's newer developers even that are building small subdivisions and that may be acquiring several properties on the same block, for instance, if they're fortunate enough to be able to do that. Where are you seeing most smaller developers, let's say, acquiring their properties? Is it infill lots?
Yeah, it's primarily infill, and when I'm talking infill, it's not necessarily like the last lot in a subdivision. Sometimes it's an old lot that's sitting in town, or it's an old lot that's been partitioned at some point, and that vacant lot hasn't been utilized. Also seeing a lot of people that are working to increase density. Here in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of opportunities with middle housing where you can buy a property with a house that has a large property, and you can build multiple units on it. On a weekly basis, I'm getting calls about ADUs to understand if they, if an investor can buy a property with a house, flip the house, put an ADU on the back to add some value and be able to make some cash out of the backside of it.
The ADUs are huge. This specifically is probably going to be a growing area of interest for investors all across the country, both because people who have property may be interested in seeing how they can make money off of their existing property, and then also you have this massive housing crisis, really, of affordable housing, and it does seem to be a way that can be addressed. What's your perspective on this? How maybe even outside of the scope of land development, how is this going to impact the way investors are looking at opportunities? Are we going to start to see more investors looking at potential properties where they can develop not one but two properties on?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel very passionate that one of the big keys to solving the affordability crisis is the investors that are developing small properties. If you look at what jurisdictions are doing, there's not a ton of work right now to make it easier on the big developers, right? But there's a ton of legislative work going on right now to help with middle housing codes. The middle housing codes in the Pacific Northwest, frankly, have gotten very very aggressive. Where they're dropping lot coverage limits, and they're dropping tons of setbacks and other regulations specifically catering to that middle housing. So yeah, I think that the small investor, or the investors that are making moves on infill, is going to be where it's at. The jurisdictions are certainly the ones that are trying to make that easier right now.
When we talk about ADUs, when we talk about basically any type of dwelling that is not stick built, single family home on a undeveloped lot, it does seem to be a hot topic for a variety of reasons. You have places like Los Angeles, which may not be renowned as being the easiest to develop in. They've really embraced ADUs. And
Absolutely.
then you have other places where you would think there would be more ADUs. Like, I'm a Texas licensed realtor. You would think there would be tons of ADUs, and I'm sure there are, but I don't see the wave in ADU development or folks talking about it in the same way that I hear in other areas. Do you think that beyond, traditional real estate investors, that the everyday person who owns a property is going to potentially, maybe not now, but in the next couple of years, start looking at, hey, I've got kids, or hey, you know, I'm not using this area of my property. I should look at developing this.
Yeah, absolutely, Dylan. I just sat with a group of realtors 2 weeks ago, and so these are general listing realtors that are selling properties in Central Oregon, and I asked them how many of them are getting questions about ADUs, and every single one of them, every property that even conceivably has enough room for an ADU, they're getting questions about it.
Wow. Wow. That's a game changer. You
It,
know what I
it
mean?
it is, and I'm going to play a little bit of the other side of the card though, Dylan. With ADUs are hard, and there's a lot of media out there about build ADUs, and that kind of goes back to the premise of what I'm doing. Is there's a lot of ADUs are not as easy as you might think, especially when we talk about slope, utilities, zoning, making sure all that's squared away. I see a lot of people get bit, because they have to extend the sewer line, right? Or they have to put in a new lateral, or their electrical panel has to be upgraded to be able to tie in that ADU. And that doesn't make ADUs infeasible. It's just you got to know the numbers up front. You can't get engaged into a builder contract ready to build your ADU, and then have those bids come in and get you completely blown out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, to break ground on something and start something and then have to encounter issues in development is a sure way to not have a successful outcome.
Absolutely.
We are coming up on time here, though, Don. Where can folks go if they're interested in reaching out to you? Maybe they have a property or prospective property that they're looking at. How can folks reach out to you or your team?
Yeah. So, I believe in the show notes, our website for www.sitefactsreports.com are going to be in the show notes. That's a great way to find out more information about what we're doing. Our key service product is a flat rate report. It's $500. We turn it around in 5 days. The other place, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm real active there. I've got a newsletter that's called Below the Surface. If you're the type that likes war stories and likes to scare yourself a little bit with some things that I've run across, pretty regularly, I'm putting stories up of things that I find as I do due diligence, and mainly for the lesson. There's a lot of people that have aha moments as they're reading those stories of, gosh, I should look at that, or I should dig deeper into that. And that's the whole point of that newsletter. But yeah, they're on LinkedIn. If you just search for me, Don Healy, on that, you'll find Site Facts Reports. You'll find Below the Surface newsletter.
Don, thank you so much for coming on the show here today.
Yeah, of course. I certainly appreciate the opportunity. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.